What's up guys, it's Tommy here and welcome to a brand new Liverpool transfer news update video. And in this video we will mainly talk about Alexander Isak and what's the latest situation regarding this transfer saga. But we also have some major updates about Mark Gay, Harvey Elliott and potentially Liverpool looking at other targets like Fofana of Lyon, because every day that the transfer deadline day gets closer, every day it's less likely that Liverpool will be able to sign Alexander Isak in this summer transfer window. But we have some good news on that front, because Newcastle have made a new offer to Brentford for Yoane Wissa, which is a £40 million package with 35 million base fee and £5 million in add-ons. And Newcastle are waiting for a response from Brentford, but they are hopeful that this deal will be enough, even though Brentford are holding out for 60 million. Newcastle's opening bid was 25 million for Yoane Wissa last month, so they were really lowballing Brentford. Of course, Newcastle's argument is that Yoane Wissa is 28 years old and he only has 1 year left on his contract. But Brentford, after selling Mbeumo, they don't really need the money. Right now they would rather keep a striker like Wissa, but Wissa is also on strike, just like Isak. He doesn't want to play for Brentford anymore, he wants to move to Newcastle. So talks are ongoing between the two clubs and they are now in direct talks, and Newcastle are hoping that they could seal this transfer. And the Sky Sports journalist Keith is reporting, his name is Keith Downey. He's the Northeast reporter for Sky Sports. He's reporting that if Newcastle could land Yoane Wissa in the next few days, maybe in the next week, then Liverpool could sign Alexander Isak. If they came with a £130 million deal, then Newcastle might have to make a huge decision on whether they sell Alexander Isak or not. I think Isak has done absolutely everything in his power to make this transfer happen, and Newcastle are playing a very risky, very dangerous game, because if they decide not to sell Isak, then they could be stuck with a player who doesn't play, and they could be stuck without a main proper striker. Yoane Wissa could also be a striker, but he's not on the level of Alexander Isak. And The Athletic is reporting that Newcastle's stance on Isak is that they are unlikely to let him go unless they signed two strikers, one of Champions League quality, and they also, if they get 140 million pound offer for Alexander Isak. But they of course wanted Joao Pedro, Ekitike, Sesko. They all joined other clubs, so Isak's exit seems less likely by the day because of Newcastle's incompetence, and because other top players are looking at Newcastle and they don't see ambition, they don't see structure, they see a club in disarray, they don't see a club with a proper CEO, proper sporting director, clear vision going forward. They only signed one attacking player, Anthony Elanga, but other than that, Newcastle have gone backwards really in terms of squad building. James Spears also is reporting that signing a Yoane Wissa or signing a Strand Larsen from Wolves, that would not meet the conditions that Newcastle mentioned in their statement after Alexander Isak put out his statement, which I talked about in yesterday's video. Newcastle responded with the statement and they said that they will only sell Isak if the right conditions are met. And probably those are signing a top level or a top quality replacement for Isak, and also getting a top bid from Liverpool. And by the way, it's absolutely ridiculous that Liverpool offered a British transfer record, £110 million transfer offer. They submitted that to Newcastle and they said that that's not the top offer. Well, how ridiculous is that? Yes, it might be under the valuation of Newcastle, but every day that goes by and Isak is on strike, and every day that goes by, that valuation goes lower and lower, and Newcastle could miss out on 40 to 50 million pounds. But I feel that the Newcastle owners are behind this decision, not Eddie Howe, because Eddie Howe personally, he wants Isak gone. He doesn't want to have a player in the squad who disrupts the dressing room, disrupts squad harmony. It really harms Newcastle a lot keeping Isak. But it looks like the Saudi owners, just out of spite, out of pure emotion, are not going to sell Alexander Isak. James Pearce is saying that Newcastle would require an elite striker or one with elite potential to join, plus a massively increased offer from Liverpool. And Newcastle feel that both will not happen before deadline day, in the remaining 13 days or 12 days, however long the transfer window lasts. And it's mainly because of the Newcastle owners. And Liverpool are also in a very risky position, because Liverpool lost Diogo Jota to tragic accident. We lost to Darwin Núñez. We sold Darwin Núñez. We sold Luis Diaz. So Liverpool definitely need another attacker, which can't go into the season with just Ekitike, Gakpo, Salah and Chiesa. Basically 4 senior attackers. Yes, we have Rio and Gomoa, and we have Florian Wirtz, who could play as a false 9, but we need somebody who could rotate with Hugo Ekitike. Many journalists are reporting that multiple sources inside Newcastle say that Eddie Howe wants Isak sold, because he is worried that it will affect the team harmony, the dressing room, harmony will be destroyed if Isak stays until January. But Eddie Howe doesn't have the final word at Newcastle. It's the owners, it's the people above Eddie Howe, the Newcastle owners, the PIF, the Saudis, and they probably want to keep Isak out of spite, because they are really angry at how Isak handled the situation. But Isak also, even though he didn't submit an official transfer request, there basically has already made his intentions clear that he won't play for Newcastle again. So I don't know honestly what happens if Isak stays at Newcastle. Can you see him just playing for the national team? Because there is 3 international breaks between now and January. The international break in September, in October and in November. So Isak could train with the national team for 2 weeks each, so that's 6 weeks, 1.5 months, and also he could play games for Sweden to still have some football being played. And then he could be frozen out in Newcastle because he doesn't want to play anymore. Newcastle are yet to confirm whether Isak has been disciplined, but the expectation was that he would be disciplined. And James Pearce reports that in the Premier League's handbook it's outlined that the club can fine Isak up to 2 weeks of his basic wage for a first disciplinary offence, and up to 4 weeks for later offences inside the 12-month period. So Isak could basically be earning nothing at Newcastle, because he could get fined multiple weeks' wages. But anything beyond that would need to be approved by the PFA, which has not yet been asked to intervene by Newcastle or Alexander Isak. And of course you have to say that I don't really like how Alexander Isak is acting. I don't condone this. I don't like how Yoane Wissa is acting, going on strike, not training, basically refusing play. But however, there are always 2 sides to the story, and they both clearly feel betrayed by their clubs. Isak has never got any complaints from anybody before in his career. He has always been a model top professional. So there are reasons that we don't know of, behind the scenes actions and events happened that made Isak act out in this way. Because you don't go on strike, you don't go to training, you don't go on pre-season without a reason. Alexander Isak has his reasons, and he feels that the club betrayed him. The club, Newcastle, broke promises made to Isak. There is always a reason why people act like that. But look at Eberechi Eze. He wanted to move all summer, but he still played for Crystal Palace. He's trained with Crystal Palace, and he got his dream move to Arsenal just in the last few hours, or in the last day it was confirmed. Even though that's also a fascinating story. Tottenham all but agreed a deal with Crystal Palace for the transfer of Eze for £68 million. But Crystal Palace wants Eze to play in their Conference League qualifier, and they are just delaying the transfer. And this delay gave Arsenal the opportunity to swoop in and to agree a deal, the same deal that Crystal Palace agreed with Tottenham for Eze, and Eze chose Arsenal. which I'm not really surprised by that, but that's just that. If I was a Tottenham fan, I would be absolutely fuming at that and fuming at Arsenal, but they hate each other anyway. So, but Newcastle are playing the media game, shifting all the blame to Alexander Isak. And as I said, there are always two sides to the story, and probably Isak's side is not as clear. Probably Isak got promises made by Newcastle which weren't kept. So he chose to act in this way, which is understandable as well. Also, James Spears reports that Liverpool were baffled by reports that they had hijacked Newcastle's pursuit of Ekitike, because that is what happened. The Liverpool officials had been in contact with Eze's agent and representatives since January. Liverpool have always kept an eye on Ekitike. We always wanted to sign him, and Arne Slot held meetings with Ekitike in May. They believe Newcastle were simply late to that party, and even though Newcastle started bidding for Ekitike, they just didn't do their homework. They didn't do their research, because Ekitike already chose Liverpool, and Liverpool just told him to wait a little bit until things are moving on in the transfer market, and that's when we managed to sign Ekitike, and he hit the ground running. And what a brilliant signing! So I'm actually, even if we don't get Isak because of the Ekitike deal, I'm happy we got Ekitike, because he's also a huge talent, and who knows, might become as good or even better than Alexander Isak in 3, 4, 5 years time, because he has the potential, certainly. David Ornstein also reports on Margay. At this moment, from what I hear, if Liverpool and Crystal Palace agree the deal, then he would definitely want to make that move. But the conditions have to be right. There's actually sort of no concrete movement in the last couple of weeks, but there were conversations between Crystal Palace and Liverpool. But expect more conversations to take place before the end of the window. And this move still can happen, but it's not 100% guaranteed. I think Liverpool shouldn't haggle over £5 million, because signing Margay would shore up Liverpool's defense so much. It would be a really good deal to do even at £40 million. Of course, Liverpool have that in the back of their minds, that we could sign Margay for absolutely nothing next summer, but that's not a guarantee. If we miss out on Margay now, he could agree a deal with another club, because he could then negotiate with all sorts of clubs as a free agent. Also, Liverpool have a great relationship with Lyon since the Tyler Morton transfer went through, and Liverpool spoke about Malik Fofana with Lyon. They are heavily interested in the player. The fact he's still at Lyon after a lot of interest and inquiries leaves a lot of questions for me. Maybe we told Malik Fofana, just stay put, wait for us, because if the Isak deal doesn't go through, we might go in and sign Malik Fofana, who is a really talented player, and that could free up maybe Cody Gakpo to sometimes play as a striker. If Fofana plays on the left wing with Ngumoa, rotating him. I don't like Cody Gakpo as a striker. I don't think that's his best position. But in some games it could be an option. Or Florian Wirtz could play as a false 9, and we could have Gakpo on the left wing and Salah on the right wing, and Ekitike gets a rest in that case as well. And also, Lyon are under financial pressure still to generate another 40 million euros in revenue due to strict financial regulations they are under. Remember, they got relegated to league, the French second division, because of financial difficulties, and then they got reinstated into the first division. They already, I think, won their first game, but that is the value expected for Malik Fofana if he's sold. Of course, the Lyon coach wants to keep him, but money takes precedence, and Lyon, under financial pressure, could be really interested in selling Malik Fofana to Liverpool in the last 2 weeks of the transfer window. But first, I think we want to see how likely it is that we have a chance to sign Isak or not. If that chance is gone, then I think Liverpool will sign one more attacker, because Liverpool don't really want to be looking at options on deadline day for an attacker like we did a few years back for a midfielder, when our choice for midfield was between Arthur and Pjanic, and we signed Arthur on a 1-year loan, and he played like 12 minutes, I think, in the whole season and got injured. Liverpool need an attacker in this summer transfer window, so I expect Liverpool to wait maybe another week for Alexander Isak transfer to happen. But if nothing happens, then Malik Fofana for like 35 million euros or pounds, sorry, 35 million pounds would be a good deal, and we would still have enough money left over for a potential Alexander Isak deal in January or next summer. But yeah, Ekitike as our only real out-and-out striker going into the season doesn't fill me with confidence, because if he gets injured, then we have to play, Wirtz or Gakpo up front, and that's not an ideal scenario. But Liverpool are still hoping that we could get this Alexander Isak deal over the line. Let me know, how do you see this transfer saga unfolding? I'm sure some of you guys are already tired of it, but I will keep you guys up to date every day on my YouTube channel, so stay subscribed. Thanks for watching, have a nice day, see you later, goodbye.